Let's talk about not getting sucked into social media and technology as healers, as business owners in the online space. Because obviously we have these platforms, right? We have technology, we have our phones, we have social media, we have the internet, we have emails, we have all of these things that are a bit of a double-edged sword, right? They give us the opportunity to create businesses that absolutely would not exist without them, and they're intentionally created to be addictive as fuck. So, what do we do when we're existing between these two places of, okay, I want to show up online so that I can promote my business, so I can get my services out there, so I can help more people, so more people who need me, who need my work, who need my modalities can find me, and that conflicting energy of, I kind of feel addicted to this. You know what? It's really fucking hard to stay off my phone. It's really hard to be present in real life. It's really hard to not just compulsively check my notifications, whether that's my payment notifications or my social media notifications or my emails or messages from team, messages from my clients. How do we set up boundaries and standards for ourselves that don't allow us to just slip and fall and trip into the social media and technology rabbit hole where we get stuck forever and just feel like we can't get out, or feel like it's a pattern that we keep falling back into? And I just want to say, this is a pattern that I've come up against again and again and again and again, and I don't just mean for my clients, for myself, over the last 9 years, almost 10 years now. I've had this conflicting energy, and I share that because I want you to know that you are not alone, and also that it's not your fault, that literally these platforms were created to be this way. And so, what do we do to prevent ourselves from just getting completely caught up in the crazy, kooky wackiness of all of that? And how do we lean more into just allowing ourselves to utilize these platforms, utilize technology for the magic that it is, and then get the fuck off and get away and go out and live our lives? Because that was the reason that we started a business anyway, is so that we could live a better quality of life, right? So the number one thing that I recommend is turn notifications off on your phone. All of them. Every single one. If you have kids, or you have a partner, or you have important people in your life who you need to still get notifications from, there are ways in your phone to set it up so that you don't receive text messages, you don't receive Voxer or Telegram messages, you don't receive notifications. You still receive the messages, but you don't receive notifications from your texts, from phone calls, from Telegram and Voxer, from Instagram, from any other social media platform, from emails. You can turn all of those off, and I highly recommend that you do, so that you start creating a different pattern within your body that says, I actually have to go in and check these things on my timeline when I want to, and I don't just respond the second someone else tells me, hey, I want your attention right now. So that's the number one recommendation I have. I have literally everything turned off on my phone. I do not receive any notifications, including, actually sometimes, I allow payment notifications to come through, because I'm like, that still feels fun. That doesn't feel overwhelming. that feels good. But the rest of them, for me, it's easy for them to feel overwhelming. But those payment notifications, I can see them, and nothing shifts. It's just kind of in my body, it's just kind of like, ooh, that was fun. Cool. That was a fun moment. Ooh, wouldn't it be fun if that happened again? Whereas when I'm getting other notifications, most of the time, my mind immediately goes into how I can respond to it, how I can fix it, how I can problem solve, how I can whatever the next step is, and then I'm immediately derailed from whatever I was just focusing on in my real life. So that's why I turn all of those off, and a majority of the time my phone is either in airplane mode or on do not disturb. So even on top of that, it makes such a big difference having all of those turned off. The other thing I would recommend is grouping your apps into specific areas in your phone. So I moved my messages, my phone calls, my emails out from the bottom section that iPhones put it on naturally, so that I don't see them all day, every day. And I put them in a folder that's at the far right of all of my pages. I think I have 3 or 4 different pages of stuff on my phone, and they're all grouped in different sections, so that honestly, it just takes me a few more clicks to get to where I want to go, and that deters me enough from using those platforms frequently that I don't have to use them as much, because I'm like, where is that app? I don't remember. Let me swipe through my 4 pages to see if I can find it. Nope, I can't. Okay, let me find something else to do. It cuts off that dopamine gratification that we're looking for really, really quickly, because I can't get the gratification I wanted quick enough. So then I have to find something else to give me a dopamine hit. And a lot of times I end up being like, maybe I don't need to be on my phone at all right now, and I can just go do something else and be present in my life. Okay. I'm going to start reading through a bit of some notes that I have written out here. So another option is creating app limits and screen time. So this is a really, really good one, because if you set limits on your screen time, and I have this set up too, for me it is 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., which might not sound that crazy, but it made a huge fucking difference when I started doing that. And there's a few different ways that you can do it to where you absolutely cannot get into your phone outside of those times, and you're just fucked. Or you have to put a password in. And what I used to do for a while when I was having a really hard time with this is I actually had my husband set a password for it, so that if I was outside of my time limits and I went to go get into my phone for something, I literally didn't know the password, so I couldn't. And I would have to ask him to open it up for me, which would then have me contemplate even more on, like, do I really need to do this thing that I think I need to do right now? Or is this just a distraction? Is this dopamine, is this the addiction speaking? And then obviously in times when, like, we're traveling and stuff like that, he's with me, so it works and it's fine. So having screen time and app limits also can be super helpful. You can set, as far as app limits, you can set a limit to how much time a day you can spend on a specific app. So if it's Facebook, if it's Instagram, if it's whatever it is, you can set that specific limit on there, so that, again, I do actually recommend doing that on this one, where making it so that you can't even get back into that app after a set amount of time, that even with your password, you can no longer get in there. Another thing that I'll say along with that is, if you delete, this is actually one of my notes, but I'm going to say it here because I think it makes sense. If you delete the app that's bringing you the most challenge with this, that can also be really helpful. Know that on Instagram, if you have things in your saved drafts, when you delete the app, it will delete all of those. So either save those somewhere or be like, okay, we're starting fresh. Goodbye. Cutting it clean here. But I don't have Facebook on my phone, and I haven't really used Facebook in, I want to say, like 3 or 4 years, which initially started with me deleting it off of my phone. I deleted Snapchat when that started getting addictive. I deleted TikTok after like maybe a month or 2. I was like, this is too much for me. And I'm sharing this with you not to tell you that these are the apps that you should demonize and see as bad as well. It's just, when I recognize that an app is no longer supporting me in any capacity, it's not supporting me emotionally, mentally, psychologically, it's not supporting me financially, it's not actually moving me towards where I want to go in my life, I just delete it. I'm like, nope, this is no longer giving me the benefits that I actually want. It's just giving me instant gratification. It's just giving me dopamine. It's just making me want to be here more. And that's my criteria. It isn't that there's something inherently wrong with Snapchat or TikTok or Facebook. It's just my biology reacts very strongly to them. Instagram, I also react strongly to, but I also see how I can get massive benefit out of Instagram, and I enjoy the creative aspect of that. So that's how I'm discerning this. I already talked about turning off notifications, and we talked about do not disturb. Yep, group apps into folders. I did talk about that. So yeah, I actually have my social media folder that has Instagram, YouTube. I don't even remember what else is in there. I think there's like 5 or 6 apps, but all of my apps that are in there for social media, I have it titled as be intentional. So that when I go to those apps, that's the first thing that I see. I go to that app, I go to Instagram, and the first word that I see is be intentional. And that's just a one-word thing that once I see it, again, it reminds me to pause and take a breath for a second. And I could even change it to pause, right? To where the title of it, instead of saying social media, it says pause. And then when I go to it and I'm like, ooh, where's that app on my phone? Let me go get a little hit of addiction, a little hit of dopamine to feed this addiction. Let me click on that Instagram button. I go to click on it, and the first thing I see is pause. or intention. And so it just gives me a second to take a deep breath to be like, okay, what is my intention here? Why am I going into this app? Am I setting a timer on my phone for 5 or 15 minutes so that I can go in, make a post, comment on a couple of things, engage, respond to a few things, maybe post a story or whatever, and get the fuck off? Or am I just going here to scroll and tell myself that I'm doing market research and really I'm just busying myself and numbing myself out from maybe something that I don't want to feel, a conversation I don't want to have, maybe, something like that, or I'm avoiding some self-care that I need to do. It just gives me that second to slow down and feel into that. This is something that I was gonna get into with the Facebook conversation, but ever since I deleted Facebook app off of my phone, I only use it on the computer. And that's another thing that I totally recommend for these social media platforms. Like, obviously Instagram doesn't really work as well on the computer, but if you're using scheduling apps or other things like that to be able to post to your social media platform so that you don't actually have to be on the platform, you can do it from the computer. That's another really smart way, because you're more likely to want to get off of your computer than you are your phone. Your computer's less addicting than your phone. So there's an idea for that. If there's something that you're really feeling tied to and stuck to on your phone, see if you can switch it to the computer. I even noticed this with Telegram. Instead of responding to all of my, 100% of my client messages in Telegram, sometimes I'll come to the computer app and I'll write it down in here, because it's a different feeling, you're able to actually type it out with your fingers on a real keyboard instead of just on your phone. And it, even just that little bit of, kinesthetic feedback, it feels like a more real experience, right? It's a tiny bit more connected to the typewriters that we used to have to do this on, right? And so it's just a little bit more tangible than the social media goes. And then the last couple of things that I want to say here really have more to do with our routines and rituals. And, where our attention goes is where our energy flows. And so what are you giving your attention to? First thing in the morning, throughout the day, last thing at night, when you're bored, when you're not sure what to do next. Like, when was the last time that you let yourself be bored? When was the last time that you let yourself get lost and you just didn't use Google Maps? When was the last time that you left your phone at home and went on an adventure and you were just like, I don't know what's going to happen, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going to figure it out and have fun? Because I think the more that we do that, the more fun our life gets. Like, the more fun stories that we have to tell, and the more enjoyable our experiences become as well. And then getting into our nighttime rituals. I'm sure you've heard a bajillion times that light and stimulation from our screens affects our sleep in a massive, massive way. And though it might seem challenging at first, try stepping away from your phone before bed. Even if it's just 10 minutes before bed at first, not bringing your phone into the bedroom anymore, leaving it in a different room at night, turning it off at night, unplugging your Wi-Fi at night. Working up to at least an hour before bed that you're off of your phone and doing other things before bed, stretching, meditating, writing, journaling, doing something different, reading. Like I said, leave your phone in another room, because that will make it so much easier, one, to get to sleep, as you're going to sleep at night. There's so many people who think that they need to have the TV on, or they need to have music playing or whatever to be able to go to sleep, and really it's just as always, a sign that there's a system, there's something that's off within our body, and that's its way of communicating with us. Hey, there is something out of balance here. I need you to do something. I need you to do some trial and error here to bring me back into balance. And so doing some of these things can help bring that back into balance so that you can fall asleep more easily. And then also, when your phone's in a different room, if you wake up in the middle of the night, you're not going to be able to just reach for your phone and completely disrupt your circadian rhythm again. And it's also not going to be the very first thing that you grab for when you get up in the morning. You're going to have to at least get out of bed and go into a different room before you can get to your phone. And if you don't already, I really hope that you do. I hope that everyone in the world who has phones is already doing this, but turn off your phone and notifications at night. If your phone isn't completely off, at least put it on Do Not Disturb, put it on airplane mode. Don't allow yourself to get woken up by text messages or phone calls or, notifications that aren't an alarm if you use one and that you actually want it to wake you up. Yeah, like I mentioned, get really comfortable with boredom, because, when you really think about it, what we do with boredom just over the last couple of decades has really, really, really shifted. When we're bored now, we reach for our phones and we can't even process that we're bored in the first place, and that kills our creativity. I know so many different celebrities who have talked about getting rid of their phones, their smartphones, that they went back to dumb phones because they felt like having access to everything in the world at their fingertips was killing their creativity. They had to allow themselves to get bored to create the new album that went viral. They had to let themselves get bored to create the new paintings that absolutely blew up. They had to get bored to allow themselves to come up with the new fashion that completely revolutionized their life. And when we don't allow ourselves to get bored, like as kids, so many of us might have gotten bored at home and we would just be doing a craft or going outside. Or for me, I would go and play on the trampoline and jump and imagine myself at different cheer competitions and doing these different crazy tricks. And even if I couldn't do them, that was my creative outlet, was like picturing myself doing different acrobatics that maybe I didn't know how to do yet, but I was like, this would sure be cool. And then what do you know, 10, 15 years later, I learned that that's a form of manifestation. It's like, that's why I learned how to tumble so easily, because I was letting myself get bored, and then my brain taught me how to manifest without me even knowing that was a word, without even knowing that was a thing, because I let myself get bored. So instead of letting ourselves go there now, we just scroll to get that instant gratification buzz that we once generated within ourselves. And so maybe a certain level of boredom would still be good for us all. Not maybe, definitely. It would definitely be good for us. So when you're sitting on public transportation, when you're waiting for an appointment, when you're in line at the grocery store, when you're driving, when you're doing whatever the things are that you're doing in your day-to-day life, can you allow yourself to get bored? And just notice what comes up and get comfortable with it and be present with whatever activity you're actually doing and allow your creativity to flow back in. I've even seen some people, like people that I know recently, saying that they're completely getting rid of technology in their house. And they got rid of all, as far as like smart technology, they got rid of all of their computers, laptops, TVs, phones, and they experimented for a week or a month. Most of them have kids, to just see what would shift. And they all had very, very dramatic shifts in their lives and their conversations that they were having as a family and everything, just from that one shift. And, I saw a post on Instagram today that was talking about how it was really talking about the school system and how there was this study that people did looking at what they would define as genius, and it didn't say the exact specific markers that they had for it, or maybe it did. It had something to do with creativity, with like creative problem solving, basically. And it started with 5-year-olds, and they surveyed a bunch of 5-year-olds. They watched a bunch of 5-year-olds, and they just gave them some different tasks, and they saw how they would problem solve. And based on how they solved those problems, if they did it in a creative way, it said that like 98% of 5-year-olds were considered geniuses under that model of a creative genius being someone who can creatively solve problems. Then they revisited those kids 5 years later when they were 10 years old, and I want to say it was like half of them, maybe like 50% of them were still considered genius. They revisited them again in their 20s, and it was like 12% of them were considered geniuses, and then, or not 20s, late teens, I think. And then they revisited again as adults, and about 2% of them were still considered geniuses, because as we grow and as we go through the school system, and I think especially today, as we're getting more and more enmeshed with technology, our ability to really creatively problem solve dwindles. And so your ability as a leader in your industry, in your business, in your modality, to creatively problem solve is absolutely vital to the success of both you, your clients, and your business. And so the more you can allow yourself to get bored and to step away, the better. And, it can be really, really good to take some time to just internally reflect and see what is keeping you tied to your phone, tied to checking it, tied to scrolling, tied to social media, whatever it is. Is there something that you're trying to numb or distract yourself from? Is there a level of fear or loss of control? Is there a primal fear of being left out or being left behind if you're not up to date on the latest news with everyone, or the latest trends with every person in your industry? The truth is that setting these firm boundaries and reducing your time online isn't going to make you miss out on anything. It's actually going to help you get more integrated into your in-person life and feel even more embodied. You definitely will not be left behind. If anything, you're going to become an even stronger leader by doing this, because you're going to have the time, the space, the energy to create creative solutions to problems that most people are so engulfed in that they can't even see what the problem is because they're just in it. And, when we're doing the social media stuff, the technology stuff, it's not actually going to distract us. It's not actually going to make the thing that we're distracting ourselves from go away. And I know you already know that. I've been there. I am still there sometimes. And it's always worth re-asking ourselves these sort of questions and just contemplating and journaling on these thoughts to see if you can break any limiting beliefs that are keeping you from enjoying more real life freedom, more screen-free time. So if this was a supportive episode, let me know. I would love to chat about it with you on Instagram. If you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, if there's anything I missed out, let me know. And I have a few different ways to work with me right now if you are interested. The Vibrant Year, of course, my year-long mastermind is still open. It's up, it's running. We did 7-figure freedom method a couple of months ago. This month in August, we are doing the launch and chill method, and that's really where I'm going to be helping you launch your next offer so that it's even more effortless and more efficient than any launch you've ever done, and it brings you better results than any launch you've ever done as well. And so that's really what we're diving into this month in the Vibrant Year. It's a year-long mastermind, and it's very intimate, it's very holistic. We go into all things in every area, whether we're talking about your relationship, your social media habits, your health, all the things, because every single area of our life impacts the other. So that is the main way, my favorite way for you to get in my world right now. You can also join Launch and Chill separately, the mastermind. It runs for 4 weeks starting on August 12th. So you've got about 10 days to get your booty in there. Just send me a message on Instagram or send me an email if you want more information about it. Other options, I have 2 in-person things coming up very, very soon. Of course, another online option, you can join 7-Figure Freedom Method on its own. That is the program for setting up automated income, recurring income, relaxed recurring revenue in your business month to month to month so that you can get off of that income roller coaster. So that will be linked down below. The 2 in-person experiences that I have coming up, one is on August 14th. That is an in-person mastermind day here in Asheville, North Carolina, in my home. And again, that's going to be very, very intimate. There's only 8 spaces available right now. I will keep you updated as those spaces continue to fill, but we're really going to be masterminding your next breakthrough in your business, and you're going to walk away a completely different person. You're going to be walking away from this totally up-leveled, really believing in yourself, expanding your confidence, seeing how those crazy, massive goals that you have in your mind for your business aren't just possible, but they're inevitable, and you know how to make it happen, and you feel confident in making it happen. So that is a 1-day experience. We'll be going from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on August 14th. And then the other in-person experience is my retreat. That is October 16th through the 20th, so in just a couple of months. And that's also limited to 8 people. We have 7 spaces left. It's going to be so fucking good. I cannot wait. It's going to be, again, here in Asheville, North Carolina. And that is literally... this place is prime. Like, people come from all over the country here during the fall to see the leaves because they're that pretty. And this place is so lush. It's technically a subtropical climate. And so we get all of the crazy rainstorms and thunder and lightning storms and all the crazy stuff that a lot of tropical places get. But we're up in the mountains, and so we have all of the deciduous and evergreen trees both. And so even while the leaves are all changing colors in the fall and October, and literally the 16th through 20th is like prime. It's going to be fucking gorgeous. But while all the leaves are changing colors, there's still also the evergreens that, obviously are green, like peeking through the mountains. And it's just so beautiful. I've never seen anything as pretty as that. So those are the vibes. And the Appalachians are, I think it's like the 2nd oldest mountains in the world. And there's so much magic here. So very similar to our mastermind day, but for 5 full days together, you're going to be massively up-leveling your identity, massively up-leveling your money mindset, having powerful conversations about growing your business, building a team, supporting your clients, just expanding, running your own events, everything that you've been wanting to do in your business. We're really going to be creating both an action plan and implementation plan, and setting your identity up to be the person who can create and sustain and maintain that. So send me a message on Instagram if you have any questions about any of this. I would freaking love to have you there, and I just love having you guys here. So thank you for checking out this episode today. Can't wait to hear from you on Instagram.